Hi, my name is Will Nunziata, New York City-based director and creator of theater, television, and film, and also proud FENIX Global Artist Ambassador. Today, I am thrilled to be speaking with the internationally acclaimed and award-winning poet and songwriter. Her name, Julie Flanders. For more on Julie, you could read more about her right below this video, but in the meantime, take a sneak peek at this incredible video that Julie and her team created throughout quarantine called the Virtual Choir of Joy.
Dance in a circle. Dance in a circle. Dance in a circle, clapping our hands. Life is a cartwheel, life is a handstand. For no reason, amazing happiness. For no reason, crazy with joy. Crazy with joy. Crazy with joy. Dance in a circle, clapping our hands. Life is a cartwheel, life is a handstand. For no reason, amazing happiness. For no reason, crazy with joy. Dance in a circle, clapping our hands. Dance in a circle, life is a handstand. Life is a cartwheel, life is amazing happiness. For no reason, amazing happiness. For no reason, crazy with joy.
Well, hello, Julie. How are you?
I'm great. It's so good to be here with you, Will.
Julie, we had a nice off-camera conversation. I have been obsessed with you for weeks, going down the beautiful Julie Flanders rabbit hole. You are a Renaissance woman, Julie. You are an internationally acclaimed and award-winning poet and songwriter, not only collaborating across all different genres and disciplines, but you are also a creative leadership coach. You're a business strategist, in your track record, unbelievable. We will try to touch on everything, but first and foremost, I'm so excited that the audience got a little sneak peek of your virtual choir of joy video. Talk to me a little bit about how that project came about for you and your team.
It's such an interesting project because it was really the first virtual choir. We'd never done anything like that. It grew out of COVID, and we thought, well, what do people need right now? And we thought, well, what if we could get people to do a virtual choir? At that time, people hadn't really started doing it yet. And we were fortunate to have a conversation with Eric Whitaker, who said, be careful. It's a lot of work. But we went forward, and just as we were in COVID, and we were very inspired by New York City. Every night, people opening their windows and just banging pots and singing and joining voices. And then we looked around the world and saw that had started in Italy, and it had spread, and people were just isolated but kind of together through music and through singing out their windows. So we thought, well, what equates to that? What could we structure that into? And so we thought, well, let's do something where the window becomes the internet, and we just invite people to sing out their windows, to sing into their windows, to sing separately but together. And 163 performers joined us, and we didn't want to just focus on singers. We wanted it to be anybody who wanted to move or bang a pot or sing or play a drum or whatever they wanted to do. We would figure out a way to incorporate it.
Julie, what
Um,
did also, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry for
oh, the other
interrupting.
thing was just that we wanted people of all ages because everybody was being affected. And then as it began to come together, the United States really exploded with this was it ended up being an international project, but we had George Floyd and protests and all kinds of upheaval in our city and in cities. And so people really got upset with us that we were going to do something that had to do with joy. So we really had to take a step back and say, well, it's not a joyful time. We're not trying to say that it is. We're trying to say, what is the energy that we need more of? And this ended up being our response to that. And it ended up winning a Telly Award and, moving far. I mean, we had 100,000 word of mouth views. We didn't even know how to promote it. We just put it out there and people just started sharing it, which was amazing.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth because if it kind of it coincides with one of my favorite quotes from Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. Julie, I'm so happy you put it out because not only did you lean into the universality of the human condition, but the universality of music and that universal
Right.
language of music. And it's so moving. And while we were talking, I played and continued to play the video. I want to also now lean into specifically your lyricism. I was telling you off camera, not since I told my friends Alan and Marilyn Bergman that their lyrics are like poetry, have I said it to anyone else. Julie, I want people to not only look at your number one best-selling, book on Amazon, but I want them to really listen to the lyrics that you have specifically, not only with your songs that people can find all over, but specifically with the October Project, which you are the co-founder of. And I want you to talk a little bit about your collaboration with the October Project, how that came about for you. And also, I know, loaded question, when did you and how did you get so good at being such a beautiful poet?
Oh, well, I think like many people that are attracted to things, that was the gift I came with. Even as a young child, I wanted to rhyme, and I liked that first. I loved words and music. And then I became obsessed with song. So I started very, very early in writing and writing songs. And first, I wrote with my brother, and we, as children, thought we were Burt Bacharach and Hal David. And then I mean, even as early as high school, I was writing songs, and then I went to Yale and I studied, poetry and song form, and met people, and then I did the Lehman Engel musical theater workshop. So I really trained myself as a writer, and then after all that training, I really needed to let go of what I had learned and find my own voice, which I know happens to really trained singers as well. They have to find their own voice, and I had what was in pop music considered a very theatrical sensibility. It wasn't, a popular thing, but a group of friends got together and we really started creating music without any sort of outside in definition to it. And that was October Project. It was just a group of people, Mary Fall, Marina Belika, Emil Adler, myself, and Urbano Sanchez and Dave Sabatino. And we just worked really, really hard to create a suite of songs that were sort of in keeping with the kind of music that we liked to listen to. And it was inadvertent that we got signed by Sony Music, and it sort of exploded into this phenomenon, a kind of a cult following. And I think it surprised our label, and it surprised us that we ended up having so much impact. And then I wanted to tour. At that time in the 90s, women didn't tour with other women artists, and I thought it was important to open that. And I contacted every other female artist at the time, and their managers would say, no, no, you can't have a female tour. And then we got in touch with Sarah McLachlan. And so we did the first female fronted tour, which led into Lilith Fair, at which point our label dropped us. So we got to have a music business experience.
Well,
As we were
listen,
succeeding, we got dropped.
well, but the thing is, I know, well, that's the thing, Julie. And I think that, what I love so much about this FENIX app is, they're taking out that middleman
Mhm.
because
Yes.
they're giving a platform for artists like yourself who are unapologetically and authentically them. And
Mhm.
that you can't put a Julie Flanders in a box because your talent and breadth of talent is boundless and limitless. And when I think about too, all of these things that are coming up for you in 2022, despite this horrific time, talk to me about what's happening at the Kennedy Center in 2022,
Oh,
and also the release of Ghost of Childhood, also in early 2022. You're going to have a very busy early 2022.
yes, I have a lot of projects coming through. Well, Holding Our Breath, which is going to the Kennedy Center in February, began as the American Choir Directors Association put out a call for composers and poets to comment on what was happening in our world. And Carlos Cordero, who is a Venezuelan born composer, got in touch with me through my poetry and asked me if I would be willing to create a piece with him. We decided that the common element of every crisis that was facing the world was breath. It was as if we had taken a collective inhale with COVID and couldn't exhale. Nobody could let go enough to sigh into a new sense of hope. And so we wrote about that, and we started to notice how breath connected with the I can't breathe conversation of people who were being killed in the street. And it connected with California and the coast, the Pacific Northwest burning and the air disappearing. And it just connected to the sense that people are in trauma a lot from our times and holding their breath. And it was just an encouragement because the piece was written through choirs. 54 million people in America sing together at least once a week, which is a tremendous statistic. And so nobody could sing because of COVID. And people were losing not only their ability to express, but their ability to get together, to get into communities of music that are the glue of our society. And, living in New York, you saw how the arts were disappearing. So we wrote this piece as a way of speaking into the interruption of breath as being the most fundamental aspect of life and letting music move and heal that, so that by the end of this 3-minute piece, we move back to the breath and the singers resume breathing, breathing, breathing together, and the piece ends on breath. And then a wonderful choir, helmed by Craig Hella Johnson, a very Grammy Award-winning, beautiful choir, decided that they would give the piece a virtual performance right in the middle of COVID, and just people from South Africa and Roomful of Teeth, some of the singers from there, and Conspirari all came together, and Craig Hella Johnson put together a virtual choir and a virtual video to premiere at the ACDA conference. And I guess many choir directors saw it and are putting it into various programs they have, where they are gathering together the themes that people need to sing into to bring us to a new place together. So that's kind of
Unbelievable,
what's going
Julie.
on.
I mean, it's unbelievable. And what people have to realize with you, if they don't already, Julie, is that you also help not only everyday people, but leaders across all disciplines, not just the creative fields, because you are an expert in breath, through hypnosis, breath, trance. You're not just like someone who has an idea. You are an expert at it, and the fact that you are taking those tools and imbuing them, and I look at it almost like a thread that you're threading through this beautiful quilt that's your music and songwriting, but you're also constantly threading all of these other skill sets throughout. Because for me, when I experience your music and songs, it's an experience. I'm not being talked at. I'm not being taught a lesson that's like slapped across my face. It's an experience that, I think I like to say I have pretty good taste. This is exquisite, exquisite.
Thank you so much. Well, October Project, I write with my husband, and he's an amazing composer, and we work very hard to strip away anything that is clever or fancy, or, we're always trying to get the song to unlock in the heart of the listener or the performer. Like, we see the collaboration as including the listener. So I think that's part of it. Is I like, as a listener, I'm an avid listener. I listen to a lot of things. I like to lose myself in something, which I guess is to say I like to find myself in something. Which
Wait, that
for
is
me,
beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, and
looking
I
for
mean, I
steps.
just think that's what theater is. I'm a theater girl, so I want a song to be a
Uh,
theatrical, temporal experience, and that the listener's partly creating that. Like it's a soundtrack to their life and their story. And so that song doesn't get in the way of their story, but rather is like,
it's so
that's
interesting you
me.
mentioned that, Julie, and I apologize for interrupting
Oh
because
no, I love it.
it's literally like, well, director with my hat literally and figuratively on, I'm listening and I'm like, she's investigated the superfluous to get to
Mhm.
the elegant and the crux of the matter. And
Wow.
theater being a medium of ideas, and I have attended everything since I was 3 years old, God bless. So much of your music and your songs and your storytelling lend itself, I think now more than ever, to the temple that is theater. Because for me,
Mm.
when I listen to
Yes.
your stuff, Julie, and I'm sure you've been told this before, it's a religious and spiritual experience.
Well, I moved to a place called Church Street. I definitely think that the theater is a kind of temple or a kind of church. It's a kind of sacrosanctity of trust. And when artists really do their
Mm.
work, and rather than manipulate, they simply just keep reaching deeper in, deeper
Mm.
in, to like a kind of simplicity. Now, simplicity doesn't mean, there's this program White Lotus right now on HBO Max,
I
and
saw it.
I loved it so much.
Julie, I cannot believe, okay, I just got chills. Literally, I was like, did Julie write the soundtrack to that? Because literally what it was is, I think a lot of people that critiqued it, this is of course for our audience, White Lotus on HBO Max, but it's okay if you didn't like it out there. But my friends who didn't like it are the ones that like all of the dots being filled in and all
Right.
of the T's crossed. This
Yes.
was a moment of us actually eavesdropping in on a Monet. I
Yeah.
felt like we were eavesdropping in on a Monet and allowing us as a viewer of this painting to
Mhm.
fill in the specific textures. And that's
Yeah,
how I
and
feel about
I
you.
always really like theater that, I mean, have you ever gone to like a box musical or something and you leave and nobody talks about it? Everybody's like, where are we going to eat? And I've always liked theater where you go, um, and you need to go again, even if it's a comedy or just something like lifting that's just,
Amen. That activates, but also
yeah.
I also like theater that isn't like with a period or an exclamation point. I like
No,
theater with a
right?
question mark or an ellipsis.
Yeah, I think about like the ending of Hamilton and how I always want to stop like on the Disney. I want to stop it before I get to the end because I know that I'm just going to be wrecked by that final moment every time. It doesn't matter. I remember the first time and I suddenly understood the entire show differently because of the ending, the culminating moment of Hamilton, where you realize who's telling the story. What's the story about? And you realize it's about, spoiler alert, it's about her. It's about this woman that starts an orphanage and held and told and loved her husband enough to forgive everything and let the story be told. And then when you finally realize, we end the story with her, then all of a sudden you see his love for her. Like for me, it was so extraordinary. And each time I see Hamilton, I could focus on a different character and have a completely different experience of that show and the sacrifices different people made for us to live the way that we do.
That's right.
Or, the sacrifices that the cast and crew made to take the many years it took to put something like that together. And I felt the same way. I felt like Hades Town similarly. I'm very into collaboration. I feel like when artists come to their center in strength, they don't attack one another and they don't compete. They collaborate and
Amen.
they use the alignment of a true north, like a compass point of truth to
Amen.
organize everything. And what stays or what goes is not based on ego, it's based on the true north of the project.
I love that you said true north. Oh my God. Again, chills all over. I have a saying that I like to use all the time. I always say when I begin a rehearsal process with all the collaborators, I said, listen, we all have one North Star. And I
Yeah.
say what it is. And then I say, by the way, too, best idea wins. I just
Oh,
happen to be the director where the buck stops. Best idea
right.
wins. You bet your
That's the
bottom
deal.
dollar that when I direct my first Broadway show, I'm gonna go over to the usher and say, "What do you think about that? Can you see that thing upside left that I see? Is that gonna bother you?" I mean, like,
Yeah. Sometimes the usher truly gives they give the animating sparkle of the comment that needed to be made. You know,
That's
it's
right.
really true. We all need to be very humble because a lot of shows, like, I mean, there's when people go back and they talk about how a show came together, you often find out that the show wasn't working. And then there's some minor changes, song gets moved or whatever, and the whole thing comes together because it was really about the way songs sat next to each other, or even who animated them. I find it fascinating with my songs and with other people's, when different singers own a song. They own that song.
Ooh,
That's theirs when they own it.
ooh.
And I love singers for that. I feel like I mean, I worship singers. So I mean, I feel like, you know, it's funny, Will, because you and I are talking. We obviously come from a really common universality place, but I believe in collaboration, and I also believe that I believe in the standards of art at a professional level. I think that um, collaboration when you're a professional means you never stop working. You're always working. I also believe in inclusivity in art. I don't believe that the professionals are the only ones that can express, or, you know, I love teaching because I like for the idea that you don't have to be perfect to be creative. So those two things coexist for me. But I think the most important energy that we have right now on the planet is the energy of collaboration, to collaborate rather than to compete, meaning that coming from a place where when everyone does what they do really, really well, in concert with one another, in harmony with one another, it is a different model than when we compete and we play a game of scarcity, like one winner or one, you know, outcome economically. One person takes home all of the goodies and builds a big blue rocket and takes it to space is different than we're all doing this together. This is a very tender time for the planet Earth. And we need to learn how to get along and make sure everybody has what they need. It's not going to divide like these people can get it and not these people. Like these people
Right,
can,
the haves and the have-nots, the left
yeah,
and the right, everyone looking on their Facebook timeline and not
yeah.
conversing with someone else because of what one maybe news station says about them. Julie, look, I could speak with you forever, but what I want to leave the audience with is this: that amidst everything that you're doing, whether it be your book of poetry, the October Project, the Ghost of Childhood coming out early 2022. You also have a choral work, Book of Rounds, 21 Songs of Grace that have been published by Hal Leonard. That this, all the information is going to be below that. At the end of the day, Julie, you are doing your part in not a small way, a big way, in showing and not telling people the power and universality of kindness, grace, music, joy, that we all have the obligation, but not even the obligation, we all have the choice
Yeah,
to
choice
be
is really
better.
important. We do, it's a choice. It's a choice, and it takes constant refreshing to be more kind. And I think kindness, I make a distinction between kindness and niceness. I think kindness always involves the truth, you know, but it's the kindest possible truth. We, you know, this culture of attack is very bad for us, I think. I don't think that we should be attacking one another on anything. I think we should be seeking to understand and assuming the best of each other. You know, that's the only way to get there. I was thinking about how the Taliban has come into Afghanistan, and, you know, they're suppressing the rights of certain people. And it all made sense to me when I found out that they executed a musician for playing music and that they were banning music. And I thought, what are all the things they're banning? They're all these life giving things. And to live in a culture that doesn't have any of those life giving things is just so bereft of humanity, in my view, that we are so fortunate to have the freedom and the grace of being able to express differing points of view, and to, you know, if somebody wants to say something and they want to say it really, really well and they have the best of humanity in mind, it's good to have differing points of view. That's what I believe. As long as you're not harming other people, but the moment you step into harming others, it's just a different conversation.
Julie, I need to have you on like audio message in my pocket as like little reminders. You're a perfect example of not only an artist, but a human being of the planet who has done the work. You've done the work on your craft, you've done the work on yourself to be a vessel to be a vessel that you are, that, well, you saw pre-interview. I was almost getting emotional, and I don't want to today, but I do just want to thank you. I want to thank you for what you do, continue to do, and we will be having our own coffee in New York very soon to collaborate, because you are truly a once in a generation artist with a capital A.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much from you. Those words are so meaningful. I mean, you're such a great talent and a powerhouse of energy, like to be able to do as much as you're doing at that level is incredible.
Well,
And I
listen,
look forward to seeing what you do when we get to be back in our spaces, like I'm hoping everything just stays open so that we can have that temporal experience of being in an actual physical space together where theater each night that it happens differently. I mean, that's something extraordinary to me, as no two performances are the same.
and on top of that, Julie, the world, but also selfishly for me, being mainly from the theater needs you. The theater, I've never seen a piece of theater that has moved me like it has with your music, period. Period. And I told you off camera, I saw narrative. I saw narrative in a way that I'd never seen before. Just the songs that you have out there, and it just
Wait
excites
until
me.
our coffee and I tell you what I'm doing next in the
Okay, we're going to end it here. To our audience, for more on the amazing Julie Flanders, you can read more about her right below this video. Julie,
Thank you
thank you.
so
To
much.
be continued.
Thank you.